Our next guest says she is not committed in her vote for Johnson. GOP Congresswoman Victoria Spartz joins us now. Congresswoman, thanks for being with us right now. Why are you not committed to Speaker Johnson as the next Speaker of the House?
Well, I'll tell you, Will, I look at people's track record, and unfortunately, we will not be able to deliver on President Trump's agenda, as the same happened in 2016, because it has to be done legislatively if we don't have Speaker with the courage, vision, and a plan. And if Speaker Johnson wants to be a Speaker, then he needs to lay out that plan and commit to that plan, not like what he did last year. He committed on the House floor to have a fiscal commission, so we have planned for that ceiling increase, which President Trump is right about. We have no plan. He was afraid to put it on the floor. He was afraid to put budget on the floor. Except post office bill, we couldn't accomplish anything. So I can give him a chance, but I would like to hear from him how he's going to be delivering this agenda and what plan he has, and he hasn't been doing it.
Okay, you're uncommitted. You say you can give him a chance, and you've laid out what you want to hear from him and some of your criticisms. I do need to ask you, though, about strategy. So if you do not commit to voting for Speaker Johnson, which, by the way, one more defection from Speaker Johnson would cost him the speakership, what do you expect to happen? Do you have a name? Do you have somebody that you would like to be Speaker?
I'm actually want to hear, what other people, and Speaker Johnson is not able to govern and is not actually willing to commit to do his constitutional duty. I'm not asking him to do anything beyond what Constitution asks. We have a Titanic on the crash course with the iceberg, and our country fiscally is going to have a disaster. And this is a fault of Congress. This is our constitutional duty. If he's not willing to do it, then he's not worth to be a speaker. Any American can be a speaker, and right. I'm willing to hear other people too. But if Speaker Johnson, I said it again, if he wants to be a speaker, he needs to commit publicly how he's going to be fulfilling his constitutional duties. I'm not asking him to go beyond what he has to do by Constitution and what structures we need to put in place to get out of this mess.
I think I hear clearly what you hope, what you expect from Speaker Johnson in order to get your vote. But if he does not do what you want him to do in order to earn your vote, no one else has stepped up. So it leaves the House of Representatives with no leadership for some protracted period of time where Donald Trump is looking to be inaugurated within a few weeks.
Well, listen, I think there are a lot of other people are interested, but I think they don't want at this point to go to Speaker Johnson, and I think, Speaker Johnson needs to have a serious conversation, and I hope he will be able to have that conversation, including with President Trump, and convince him, because there are a few things also he didn't deliver for President Trump too, what he promised just recently, and he needs to be able to convince the American people that he's able to do it and other members. So there are other people but right now, no one wants to step up and say, well, yeah, Mike hasn't been doing that great, but, we don't want to, since he's been saying all these good things to President.
So I think that's notable if you're telling us you know of other individuals in Congress who would want to put themselves up for Speaker?
Yes, they are. Of course, there's a lot of people probably, and I think that's a debate deliberation we have, and I hope we have it before January 6th. This is unfortunate that Speaker Johnson is not willing to have that deliberation with the members that actually opposing him right now, and it's not just me. There's much more members. Sure. A lot of people just really afraid to say that.
Sure. So last question for you then, though. If this does not come together in a time frame where it is something that happens quickly, and based upon history, it has not happened quickly. This could be something that interrupts the inauguration of Donald Trump as president of the United States. It could, in fact, mean, as has been pointed out by Fox's Chad Pergram, that it becomes interim. The presidency flows to Chuck Grassley, currently of the Senate, if Donald Trump's not capable of being inaugurated because there's no Speaker of the House. Is that something you're prepared for in order for this fight over Speaker Johnson?
No, it's not going to happen. We will have a speaker, and there are a lot of great people that be willing to step up if Speaker Johnson can work with the members and convince them. I think most people just want to have some courage and leadership, and really him follow through on some promises that he didn't. So I think if he doesn't want to do it, then he cannot govern this institution, because you can be a speaker, but how are you going to govern if you don't have trust of members and a very, very tight majority? You need to work with people. So we will have a speaker. I have no doubt about that. And and we will have a good speaker. But I think speaker needs to have commitments to the American people to deliver on the agenda, because if we legislate and govern through executive orders, it's going to be very short-lived, all of these great things that President Trump is trying to deliver for the people.
Okay, well, thanks for explaining your point of view this morning with this Congresswoman.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, you bet.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.